Good afternoon, it's David Schlotthauer, or known as Weather United. In today's video, we're taking a look at the latest on Tropical Storm Fiona that is rapidly becoming better organized. Now, if you're enjoying the videos that I do create and you want to help me out, please consider subscribing, hitting that bell notification icon, and sharing this video with their family and friends on social media. So, what is the latest on Tropical Storm Fiona? Well, not much change has happened since this morning, since my last video, only that the system does look better organized on the infrared satellite imagery perspective, with deep convection that is now beginning to slowly wrap around the entire center. And this is important because yesterday we were talking about a very lopsided system, but that has since changed today, and we have now outflow going on across the west and also to the north, which indicates that the shear has decreased. Another way to look at this is on our GOES 16 channel 2 visible satellite imagery over Puerto Rico, and we can see that again the outflow cirrus is doing this, these milky white feathery cirrus, indicating that the shear in the deep layer has really backed off, and we're beginning to see some of these banding features with deep convection try to wrap all the way around the system, which usually indicates that that Fiona is becoming better organized, with the shear again that is decreasing. But if we look closely here underneath this outflow, so I don't want you all to pay attention to the outflow here, but underneath that we do have a little bit of feathery white cirrus that are coming in out of this direction, which does indicate there is still about 15 to 20 knot northwesterly and westerly shear that is impacting Tropical Storm Fiona as we speak still. But otherwise, right now, Fiona is fairly well organized compared to with what it was like early this morning and with what it was like yesterday. We have the latest AMSR2, AMSR2 satellite or microwave pass, and this does indicate we do have very deep convection in orange and red, wrapping all the way around the center with what appears to be a mid-level eye feature that is trying to get established here, which again indicates that Fiona is trying to establish itself in this very conducive environment with divergent flow aloft. And we could also see this on the recon mission that they also flew throughout the system. The pressure has been pretty steady, 1,003 millibars to 1,006, back down to 1,005, then 1,030 millibars. The recon mission has ended, but there is an upper-level drop zone that we could actually pull up with another low-level recon mission getting underway. And so, if we take a look at this, the plane data, I don't think this has updated. Oh yeah, it has. We can actually pick up a couple of soundings, and why this is important is it tells us if there is any dry air that the plane has found on their inlay journey. And so on drop zone number 6, so I'm kind of picking up number 6, their latest sounding does indicate that there is some mid-level dry air still present to the northwest of Fiona, between the 700 to 400 millibar layer. And if we just go and take a look at our drop zone number 5, we could also see there again is some mid-level dry air, actually quite dry at 700 millibars with humidity values at about 11%. And we'll do one more sounding here and we can see less dry air there. So right now, as of their latest drop, this is, I think, this is the latest. We can see quite a bit of dry air to the north of the system, which, again, will play somewhat of a role on how strong Fiona can actually get in the next 3 to 5 days. Here's a look at the latest NHC forecast, and we can see there is hurricane warnings for Puerto Rico, so you need to take this seriously. We are talking about life-threatening flash flooding, mudslides, and potential storm surge with wind damage expected that is seen with hurricanes and tropical storms like this. And winds are at 60 miles an hour, and it is moving off to the west-northwest at 9 miles an hour. Tropical storm force wind probabilities have once again gone up further out in time, with now an 80 to almost 90% chance for tropical storm force winds on Puerto Rico. So you need to get prepared You should have had all of that done in my last 2 videos, as I gave you all plenty of notice to make sure you are prepared for a tropical storm. There is a 70 to 80% chance throughout the next 5 days, with Bermuda with a 20 to 30% there, and some of the Turks and Caicos Islands under that pretty high chance for tropical storm force winds. Now, unfortunately, hurricane force wind probabilities have increased once again. There's a little bit of a yellow speckle here, which indicates that there is a 30% chance of hurricane force winds within that area, including the Turks and Caicos Islands. So, yes, hurricane conditions are certainly a possibility over Puerto Rico and some of the Turks and Caicos Islands, and might even see that increasing in Bermuda, because some of the models that we have this afternoon do indicate we could be looking at a very, very powerful hurricane, potentially a major hurricane towards the very end of the 5-day, maybe 6-day period on the approach to that area. I'm not going to read the key messages today, or otherwise this video will be way too long, but you can look it up on the National Hurricane Center website or nhc.gov. It's not hard to find, and you can read all these key messages. But one key message that I will say is there is expected to be life-threatening flash flooding. We're talking about considerable flood impacts, mudslides, and areas of higher terrain, and we're likely to see significant wind damage seen with tropical storms or hurricanes like this. So that's all I really have as far as the key messages. But again, you can look a lot of it up yourself, because we have to kind of look over the weather computer models, which we're doing it right now. So here's a look at the GFS 500 millibar geopotential height, and this is our upper level steering flow with what is going on ahead of Fiona. So if we kind of click on this and bring up our smart pin, we can see we have this deep layer ridge to the north here. Take note of these wind barbs here coming in out of the easterly direction, and so that is our primary steering feature. That's why Fiona is still moving into the west-northwest direction, but this high is also going to erode. So when we go and move this forward, in the next 48 hours, we can see that this mid-level and upper-level ridge pattern begins to erode. So the western flank of this erodes because we have a trough that is in the way here. We have another ridge over Texas, and so there's a weakness that will develop ahead of Fiona that will weaken the steering currents. Not really the steering currents, but it will erode this western flank, so the system is able to gain latitude much faster and move out to sea. So this actually plays out quite well, and we have a pretty good model consensus among the global computers that this evolution will likely foresee. So going out into the next 3 days, or a little more than that, we can see again the ridge here, another ridge over here, and so there's a weakness, and there's a trough up here to the north, and so due to how strong Fiona will likely be in response to this trough, it will likely be able to get tug-of-war to the north and likely move out away from the U.S. There's no chance of this hitting the United States at all, as of what I can see, because of the upper-level steering traffic pattern that is going to be taking place. And going out to 5 days, we can see where Fiona goes. So it kind of does this. It kind of turns because of this ridge that's allowed to be eroded because of this approaching shortwave trough to the north. Now we have the HWRF model that is more intense, by the way. If you guys were wondering how strong does a GFS make this tropical storm as, well, Fiona could be pretty strong here, approaching 939 millibars, very close to Bermuda, and then approaching Bermuda as a 940 to 946 millibar with winds that could be about 110 miles an hour potentially. That's very far out in time, so we're not really going to worry about Bermuda too much in this video, but in future videos, I will be sure to talk a lot about that when models become more consistent. So on the HWRF, on Fiona, this is more of our outlier model. We can see this storm is going to be approaching Puerto Rico within the next 18 or so hours. So as we go out to 24 hours, air pressure is down to 981 millibars, which might be a little bit overdoing it on the H-Wharf. I think about 70-mile-an-hour winds, maybe 75 at the very most, is a sure bet as this makes its way onshore. And then after that, most of the model consensus has shifted a little bit further east because now we're continuing with a stronger Fiona than what models previously thought a couple of days ago, means that it's able to gain latitude a little more quicker and might now avoid Hispaniola. Not entirely, but enough to where there is still hurricane watches out for those areas. And we'll see if they issue warnings if this is able to shift a little further back west. But 966 millibars by day 2, and then by day 3, let's go to that. This really strengthens. So 72 hours out, we have a 951 millibar with hurricane force winds here. See the purple on your screen indicating that winds will be fairly strong here at the surface. And then going forward out to day 4 and then day 5, this really blows up. We could be looking at about 100 to 110 mile an hour hurricane. Now, be specific here, we have winds possibly at 130 miles an hour here, but again, we don't want to jump the gun too much, and so I'm staying a little bit on the low end because we know how the H-Wharf can behave. It's convective biased just a little bit, and so please take this with a grain of salt. We are talking about a powerful hurricane, either way, between 100 to 110 miles an hour at day 5 over the Atlantic Basin. And again, this could be impacting Bermuda in days to come, something that you all on Bermuda really need to be paying attention to. Stay tuned for my videos because I'm going to keep you all updated on this. So the track guidance spaghetti plot is still a little bit diverged here in the 1 day period. In the day 2 period, it really diverges because, again, we don't quite know yet exactly how strong Fiona will be when it hits Puerto Rico, or if it's going to be weaker than expectations, because again, it's all about how strong Fiona is. If Fiona is weaker, all right, let's just pretend Fiona is not going to strengthen anymore and it's going to be a lot weaker. Well, it's going to likely go further west and kind of not feel the upper level steering flow as much as, say, a deeper vortex that's able to feel that flow and weakness in the ridge. And so, therefore, if Fiona is stronger, it's going to likely head north sooner and possibly move right over or just to the south of Bermuda by day 10. So there is a huge model spread here of over 4 to almost 500 miles. Actually, 2 to 500 miles in other words. So again, pretty uncertain as far as exactly what the impacts for Bermuda or the Turks and Caicos could be, because if it's closer to the Turks and Caicos Islands, then it might just be closer to Bermuda. Vice versa, if it's further away from the Turks and Caicos, it might spare and miss Bermuda entirely. Maybe not may not the winds be, but most of the rain will likely. So something to stay tuned for on my videos going forward. So Tropical Storm Fiona, here's my intensity forecast. Again, I am not very confident at bringing this up to 110 miles an hour. I am just below the National Hurricane Centers, and I do forecast winds of at least 100 to 105 miles an hour, versus the NHC does forecast winds that could be between 105 to 110 miles an hour. Now, again, take note, the HWFI model brings this into major hurricane status nearing Category 4. In fact, no, that is Category 4 by day 5 and 5.5. So that's a high ceiling, and again, most of the clustered models do bring this only to a Category 2, with is why the NHC does the same thing as well. Again, now that we did review and talk about Fiona, I wanted to review with the satellite imagery once again. This is a pretty big tropical storm that we have to really watch closely. If you're, again, on Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, these areas, definitely need to be watching the latest NHC forecast very closely. I could only provide as many videos as I can during the day. That is 2. I will only have one video out tomorrow, may not even have anything. Actually, I will have a video out tomorrow morning, but tomorrow afternoon I will not. So make sure you do stay tuned to the National Hurricane Center or your local weather office to get the most accurate information that you can possible. Because at the end of the day, I'm only here doing what I can to make sure you all are prepared. But you also have to do your part at making sure you are prepared for Tropical Storm Fiona. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching.